Today on BrainScratch, we speak with Mr. Cameron about the possibility Ed Edwards infected at Lordenarts with the flu. Get well soon, JL. Thank you, Cairo Thorne, and I really love the artwork here, particularly the diagram of the flu and it being right over Ed Edwards. Wow, BrainScratch just became a meme. Hey everyone, it's me, it's John. I am recovering. Thank you so much for all of the well wishes. You guys are amazing, and I'm really sorry that I just didn't have the energy and focus to get a good episode out for you guys on Friday morning. But here we are. Here is an episode still for this week. The one that I was researching for this week originally, I'm going to move to next week. It deserves a good amount of attention. I think you guys are really going to enjoy digging into it with me. So I didn't want to rush that one. So instead, this week we're going to do an update episode where we're going to update you guys on several cases that I have covered before. For any of you new brain scratchers out there, if you are not familiar with these cases for any reason, just search BrainScratch and the name of the person I'm talking about, and that should take you right to the episode or episodes. Some of these have multiple episodes where you can watch them and catch up on the case. But there's a few big twists going on in some of these cases. So let's get started. And once again, Cairo Thorne, thank you. I really needed my spirits lifted a bit, and you did a great job with that. Also just wanted to give a shout out to Gary J. from Curiosity, who sent me some kind well wishings as well. I really like his work. I think you guys will too, so be sure to check out Curiosity on YouTube and see some of Gary's work. All right, so the first story we're going to crack into, do a little update on, is the Sandra Bland case. Most of us, especially here in the U.S., are familiar with this case. It received a lot of attention. The short version of it is this is a woman that was pulled over. She wasn't sure why she was pulled over. The officer seemed to escalate things with her in a bit of an inappropriate fashion, and she wound up in jail. And then on the third day, I believe, that she was in prison, it appears that she committed suicide. And there are some strange occurrences around that because she was supposed to be checked on. They're supposed to do a welfare check every few hours, and it seems like they missed the welfare check leading up to the time that she had killed herself. The police officer that originally pulled her over has since had some repercussions, but the big twist in this story right now is Texas County okays $1.8 million Sandra Bland settlement, but de-escalation training still in question. And we'll get into the details of that a little bit here on the Chicago Tribune. An overall $1.9 million settlement was disclosed by Bland family member attorneys last week, but DPS officials Tuesday would not confirm that nearly 4,000 troopers will receive de-escalation training, despite an attorney for Bland's family saying the state agreed that would be part of a settlement. That doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't going to happen. It might be in the conditions of the settlement, but the police force might not be commenting on that publicly. There are some other changes that are going to happen as the result of this case. First of all, to the officer that arrested her, Trooper Brian Encinia, or is it Encinia, was later fired and charged with misdemeanor perjury related to Bland's arrest. He has pleaded not guilty to the charge. Fortunately, the footage is all available. I did watch the footage, and I was pretty shocked myself when I heard him. I believe he was speaking to a superior officer of his, and it was clear that he was not being honest about what had actually transpired, and it seemed like he was asking about conditions so that he could kind of lessen how accountable he was for what had happened there. And it appears that his supervisors agreed with kind of my assessment of that, because they have certainly acted in a way that makes it look like he did something wrong here. But we don't know if the perjury charge is actually going to stick. That's going to be another update at some point in the future. According to attorneys for Bland's family, the settlement includes a requirement that the county jail has a nurse or emergency medical technician on duty 24 hours a day and installs electronic sensors to ensure guards are checking on detainees. In addition, statewide legislation requiring training to ensure jail personnel are properly caring for inmates is to carry Bland's name. So apparently there is a Sandra Bland Act that is now being drafted as a result of all of this, at least to give her some tribute for what occurred in this case. And safety measures like that, they just sound reasonable to me. I don't think that there is anything really out of line. I'm happy to see that there is some good progress made around this case. I don't know if the money is really all that important to her family or not. From what I understand, I think most of this money comes out of insurance policies. There's a very small amount that will have to be paid, which is the deductible for that insurance policy, and the rest is actually paid by that organization. So it's not, I mean, yes, it does somewhat affect those departments, but not in an immediate way, not in a way where I think a lot of people are going to be terribly upset with this occurring. So, but you know, in a lot of these cases, we see no resolution met at all. So, quite honestly, I am happy that there is something coming towards Sandra's family, and more importantly than that, there's some changes here that might protect other people that are in jail a bit more than they would have been before this occurrence. Moving on to our next story, one that is certainly close to my heart and was a big part of the beginning of BrainScratch altogether, and has quite honestly given me some of the more tough conversations in terms of comments and on social media. This is the Kendrick Johnson case. And there have been a few developments in this case, and quite honestly, I'm a little confused by them. The first was that in late 2015, and I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but just to bring you up to speed, this is the case of a young man that was in high school, and he died in a rolled up gym mat. The theory being put out from the people that investigated it is that he was crawling into the gym mat upside down to retrieve a shoe. He got stuck in there and eventually suffocated. A lot of people have trouble with that theory, myself included. I think I could be a bit honest and frank about that. This is a pair of shoes that he was sharing with another classmate. I believe they were basketball shoes, if I recall correctly. This was a normal thing for them to be storing it in this corner of the gym, so this isn't like a freak occurrence where all of a sudden the shoes were someplace that they hadn't been before. This was a regular occurrence from what I understand, so why this one ended in that way, I'm certainly not sure. But as the civil suit was progressing towards the end of last year, and the Department of Justice was researching or looking into this case, they actually asked the judge of the civil suit to stop their discovery process because they thought it was going to impede the Department of Justice's investigation. The judge decided not to do that, not to support the Department of Justice's investigation. Because of that, Kendrick's family essentially dropped the lawsuit. But we're clear at that time that they had 6 months to refile it and that they were going to refile it. So what happens around this is they drop the suit, the Department of Justice comes back and they say, we unfortunately don't have a case here. There's nothing that they have to try to press charges and say that Kendrick's civil rights were violated. I'm really curious about that outcome. If you know about the Department of Justice angle, there's not a whole lot of news that came out on it, but some of the facts that came out were it got handed off literally two state attorneys left that were handling this case. So this is now the third party that's looking into this case and decides that they don't have anything to prosecute there, despite the fact that they were able to get warrants and essentially raid the family of the people that Kendrick's family is accusing of being involved in some type of murder charge here. Literally raided these people at 4 o'clock in the morning, took all their electronics. It seems to me that someone's civil liberties are certainly being stepped on here, and if it's not Kendrick's, then it might be the Bell families, but something in that DOJ investigation is very unsettling for me, and I can't believe that at the end there's no official report released. There's no, here's our findings or anything like that. There is somewhat of a private conversation that the DOJ has with Kendrick's family where their attorneys aren't even allowed to be in there. None of it feels right. None of it sounds right. And quite honestly, it's hard for me to believe that they spent that much time to come to a conclusion of no conclusion. But that is what happened. So after that, the many people that were named in the civil suit decided that they were going to countersue for all of their legal fees for defending themselves. This is despite the fact that Kendrick's family said, hey, we're still going to process this lawsuit. The judge still heard that, took it into consideration, said that they are going to be repaid those damages. Once again, all this considering the fact that Kendrick's family still stated that they were going to refile this suit. So the judge did not get to the point of actually saying how much of those damages were to be repaid. And guess what? Kendrick's family refiled the suit. So all of that legal nonsense is now pretty much a moot point because the suit is actually going forward. They were throwing around amounts of money like $980,000, just shy of $1 million of attorney's fees that Kendrick's family was going to be responsible for. A lot of people that comment on this online don't always seem to understand that the civil suit is much different from criminal charges. There's a lot less you have to prove. We've seen this in cases before where criminal charges don't go through, but civil suits do win. I still personally don't understand this civil suit very well. It seems extremely wide to me. I think that Kendrick's family is using this as a method of trying to do further discovery to really suss out whatever they think this conspiracy is. I don't know if there is a conspiracy there or not. What certainly seems interesting to me is the school's level of responsibility about those particular gym mats being stored in that way. I can tell you it took me less than 2 minutes of searching on wrestling mat manufacturers' websites to find a direct clause about mat storage that very clearly states never store the mat rolled standing on end. So now I don't know if this is the same manufacturer of the mats where that occurred, but for a wrongful death suit, from my understanding of it, you just have to prove that there was reasonable foreshadowing for that type of event to occur. If the manufacturer puts out a warning that mats should not be stored in that way, and you're letting that occur on your property and someone gets hurt because of that, I'm pretty sure a wrongful death suit there would be extremely easy to win. Now, that is not the case that Kendrick's family is filing, from what I understand. They are going for a full-blown murder conspiracy involving almost 40 people, which I think is going to be very tough for them to prove. But like I said, this is civil suit, this is not criminal suit, so who knows? You never know how these things are going to go. But with the activity around it, with this kind of legal posturing, and what I kind of see almost as these, it's hard to say that these aren't threatening postures in some way. I mean, telling the family we're going to nail you with $1 million worth of legal fees for what you've done to us already so far, that kind of sounds like, hey, back off of us, don't press on with this case, or things are going to get a whole lot worse. At some point, you have to understand the threat of $1 million kajillion doesn't mean anything because it's never going to get paid. We know those things never get paid. The most you're going to do is push a family into some type of bankruptcy situation, which in 7 years they're going to be out of. So what is the true threat there? I don't understand. It seems really weird to me, and quite honestly, it looks to me that if this case does keep going on and for some reason they don't win or don't come to an understanding, and if they want to press on to appeals, I think it's going to be very easy. I already feel like some of these appeals are writing themselves just in this nonsense that the judge has kind of been conducting with not supporting the DOJ. The family that then does the right thing to try to support the DOJ. The judge, all he had to do was wait 1 month. That's all the judge had to do, was defer his judgment about this secondary lawsuit for 1 month, because then the Kendrick's family would have been out of that 6-month period. They wouldn't have been able to refile those same charges, and whatever the counterclaimants were going for, he could effectively say, okay, now you guys are going to get paid X, and that would have happened. But instead, he tried to rule this judgment while the legal process still was not complete. It totally does not make sense to me. It seems like legal posturing and some type of legal threat. And I'm really disappointed by it. It's another example of a justice system that in some ways makes you really question what the heck is going on in this country. But like I said, I still don't get this case. I've looked into this case every which way. No, I don't feel right about the assumption that he died by crawling into that mat. It doesn't make sense that the mat is 2 inches tighter than his shoulders. How did he even squeeze himself in there? It doesn't make sense to me that if you were going to crawl into something upside down, that you would be holding your earbuds in one of your hand. None of that makes sense to me. Why are you going to flip your shoes off while you're stuck in the mat? Why would you assume that your socks are going to have some type of better contact than the rubber on the bottom of your shoes for pulling you out of there? None of the logic works for me. But that being said, the thoughts about the Bell family, their alibis, from what I understand, are pretty tight. They're pretty tough to dispute. The DOJ took all their electronic materials, apparently didn't find anything in those. It's a frustrating case. And I wish that the DOJ would have at least released some type of report to say, hey, look, here's our findings, and this is simply why we couldn't process it. But instead, we hear this kind of inside room deal that I'm not sure if we even really understand fully. I mean, who knows? We're only hearing about it from Kendrick's family because their attorneys couldn't be in there with them to really ascertain what was truly being said to them. So very tough, but obviously not the end of that story. Finally, this is a bit more of a Searchlight update, but hey, this is all BrainScratch, right? The Ben Needham case. Ben from Sheffield was 21 months old when he disappeared on the Greek island of Kos on the 24th of July, 1991. Ben vanished after traveling to the island with his mother and grandparents, who were renovating a rundown farmhouse building in the village of Iraklis. Detective Matt Fenwick of South Yorkshire Police said there will be planned operational activity at 2 locations on the island that have been identified as areas of interest to the investigation. He said an appeal in May, when officers returned to Kos to carry out house-to-house visits and distribute leaflets and posters, had, quote, prompted new information and lines of inquiry. Yes, we have movement on a 25-year-old missing toddler case. One that, quite honestly, I wasn't sure we would ever see any update on. But let's see if we can understand a bit more about what motivated them. What was this new information? Heading over to theguardian.com, the mother of missing toddler Ben Needham says she has been told by British investigators that her son may have been crushed to death by a digger. A digger is a piece of construction equipment used for digging. Here are some photos just to give you a bit of an idea. And some more details. A witness had told police that his friend, Konstantinos Barkas, who died of stomach cancer last year, was responsible for the death. Around the time of Ben's disappearance, Barkas had been clearing entrances in his digger for a new property nearby. From what I understand, he is stating that there was an accident that occurred. I don't know if he had dug a hole and Ben crawled into it and the digger hurt Ben in some way. But obviously he feels like he was responsible for Ben's death, and then I believe he used the digger to cover that up. Now this is all pretty recent. This has just come out within the past few weeks, but already we have an update here from thetimes.co.uk. Scraps of fabric found at dig for Ben Needham. British detectives searching for the remains of the toddler Ben Needham have found pieces of light-colored fabric resembling the clothes he was wearing when he disappeared on a Greek island 25 years ago, and the findings are being examined by experts. A bit more current news, literally from today. Search for missing British toddler Ben Needham resumes in Greece after dispute with landowner over newly discovered ancient tombs. An eerie silence fell over a dusty patch of farmland on the Aegean island of Kos on Friday after 5 days of intensive efforts by British police to find the possible remains of missing toddler Ben Needham came to a jarring halt. Mechanical diggers and bobcat excavators lie idle, and officers from South Yorkshire Police left the site after the owner of the land demanded that the search immediately stop. 4 1,500-year-old stone tombs were discovered. 3 hours of intense negotiation ensued. And I'm pleased to say we're back up and running, said Detective Inspector John Cousins, who is leading the search. So just a few twists, but after 5 days of searching, outside of those possible pieces of fabric, we still don't have any firm conclusions for Ben, but we have what appears to be a deathbed confession of sorts. New areas to search. The search is ongoing, so I am hopeful that something might come up in this case, and Ben's mom can finally get the answers that she's been waiting for many, many years. All right, everyone, that's your BrainScratch update for this week. Thank you so much once again for all the support and understanding around this. It's kind of tough when you're the only person doing all this, getting in front of the camera, editing it, updating it. I really wish that I had a partner or someone I could have had pick up the slack around me being sick, but hey, that's what it goes when you're a solo YouTuber. And thank you to, I just want to give a quick thank you to Casey Jane, who is also providing the research for next week's episode. I've already started looking into it. It's going to be a very, very good one. I encourage you all to stay tuned and check that out. Take care, everyone, and I'll catch you on the next show on the Lord and Arts channel.